welcome to the Gem on the Queen's Crown, episode number 7. And tonight we have not one, but 2 special guests for you on the podcast. I don't know why I bothered said tonight, but you can listen to this podcast tonight. You can listen to this podcast in the morning, afternoon. It's around 24/7. And you can listen to it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And also on gemcitysports.com. And you can follow it on GCSN Sports on Twitter or Gem City Sports Network on Facebook, or follow me, the Lee W. Mowen, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media jollies as you were. Episode 7, like I mentioned, 2 special guests. We have the co-owners of the Gem City Sports Network from Brookville, Ohio, calling in on the podcast, Doug Brown and Brian Reiss from Kettering.
Thank you very much, Lee.
And Doug, how you doing over there?
I'm ready for some football. How about you?
I'm ready for Dragons because that's my next sporting event I work at.
I'm looking forward to pretty much anything that's going on. Soccer as well. There's high school stuff going on, and UD and Wright State's been started for a while. So
yeah, Wright State, they had a game last night. They beat Cincinnati 4-2, and it was A.J. Patterson, a midfielder, that got a hat trick, and the 4th goal was off a defender. And it was a real good game.
And if I remember, there was a couple players from the Dynamo on both sides.
Yep, Peyton Mowry for Cincinnati definitely got a lot of experience with Bai Cabe on the back line. And also for Wright State, you had Tristan Lyle, Austin Kinley, and Eric Hutton. It was nice to see a couple of familiar Dynamo faces as well. Coach Greist was there. Brad Boldman was there too.
Oh, good old Brad.
Yeah, good old Brad. Gave me compliments on the podcast, so thank you very much, Brad. Appreciate that. But yeah, that was a fun game. It was nice. It's nice to come back to college soccer. So, gentlemen, you own the Gem City Sports Network, and as people know, it's the podcast home for the Gem on the Queen's Crown. When did Gem City Sports come into effect? When did it blossom into what it's known for today?
We got started. This was basically Brian's idea.
Don't give me too much of the credit. I'd like to think that both of us came up with it at the same time, but
started in November of 2012, and our first game was a girls' basketball game at Belmont High School. And it was the Stebbins Indians and the Belmont Bison, and I thought it was going to be a pretty good game. And I don't know if you remember it, Brian, but it was like 85-35.
It was not close. I remember that. And if anybody remembered, the Wi-Fi or the internet was not working there, so we technically podcasted that game instead of calling it live.
Yeah, I thought, what are we getting ourselves into here? But it turned out that, it was a gold mine that we got this thing going. And one of the things that I told Brian that we should do is get a hold of Sinclair and see if we can do their sports. And we've been partners with them since 2013, I think.
In fact, I think it was a year earlier than that, or. Because as a matter of fact, the first game we actually did, we never published it, but we actually did one of the Sinclair women's games before we did anything. But again, we never published it. We never did anything with it. It was just more of like a pilot, if you will, for Sinclair, if you will.
Yeah, it was a test run, and it turned out real good. And we're doing the volleyball. Rick and Mary Smith are doing the volleyball and the basketball, and I'll be doing the baseball, and they got all their sports on there is very good, and nobody knows about them.
They are. Sinclair is a powerhouse in JUCO, not just locally, or regionally, but nationally as well.
Yeah, and then of course now we have Central State, and it just seems like we keep growing, and people keep calling us. I know I get calls every once in a while, say, "Hey, can you do this, or can you do this?" This game or this show or whatever, and sometimes I have to say no, and it's tough. At least it's tough for me right now, but we're doing so good right now that we're probably. I'm not saying we're number one, but we're pretty close to it, and doing what we're doing.
The nice thing about Gem City Sports is I know my time broadcasting too, we covered a lot of things around the Dayton area. I know my favorite and probably the one people will remember me for the most is Dayton Demons and Dayton Demolition Hockey. That was always go time for me. Hockey time was the time to get rolling.
No, but I didn't go to too many of the. I don't think I went to any of the demolition games. Hate to say that, but the Demons, those were some fun times being there at the Hara Arena.
Yeah, they were, and man, we had 3 great teams with the Demons all 3 years. And I was thinking about it in the car, like what would happen with the Demons had they won the Cup in 2012, 2013.
Yeah, that was one of the episodes of one of your earlier podcasts, if I remember.
Yeah, episode 2. I might do another one of those, maybe. But it's just, what would happen if they won the Cup? Would the Demons still be around? Would Hara Arena be open? I don't know. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but it's like, hey, what if this thing happened? You know, that's what I like to do, apparently. But going back to the subject, the Demons and the demolition, it was always nice to have that free audio for fans to just come in and listen. I mean, you couldn't see it, but at the same time, I felt like every time I turn around, the video is like upside down or something. And that's not, it's not a knock on it. It's just
It's just what it was. Had to work with what you had to work with. But that was one of the good things for us. Maybe not so good for the FHL, but good for us was that I think we were the only team that offered a free option for streaming. No, it wasn't a video, but it allowed people to follow their team, whether it was Dayton or whoever was visiting, that wouldn't normally get the chance to, can do it without breaking the bank.
Exactly, and I want to go back on the video. It's not saying, we had the best videographer there, John Ford, which I need to talk to him again soon.
Yes, he was a good guy.
He is a good guy. But it was nice because people didn't have to pay for it. They can just tune it in, listen to it, and just follow along on stats. Port Huron had that for a year with another station, but they stopped, and so did St. Clair Shores. In fact, I don't think they made it through the season with the internet audio feed, but we were the only consistent ones. Like, pretty much, bam, starting in Season 2, for every game. And actually, that was the game we got my broadcast high. I think it was like 70s, 80s.
I think our biggest, our most listened to was a hockey game. I think it was 78.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I think that was Game 3 when we had the black jerseys. We displayed them, and we won that in OT with Brian Marks, the defender, had his goal from the blue line, and it went underneath the backup goalie, which I don't remember how he got in, but he did. And that's how we won it, and then we won the Cup. We forced Game 5 and won 9-2 at their place. I
do remember watching the last bit of that. It was also at Hara Arena. I mean, it was sort of double duty for us. There was the watch party for that was going on in the pub, and at the same time, we had to do a Dayton Sharks game as well.
And indoor football thing. And I think, Brian, that was the time where we fed the second microphone down to where the hockey penalty boxes would be, and you were doing color commentary from down on the field. Well, field, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It was at field level.
That was cool, though. I mean, I didn't have the guts to go down there and do that.
It was different, but at the same time, there was a really rigid, rough, hard dashboard there right in front of me. So I wasn't too scared of guys jumping up or through because I didn't really think that was going to happen. Plus, there was glass all around the rink, so they might have been a little iffy about that.
Yeah, I don't. The 2 years I did Sharks, I don't think they ever took the glass down. Maybe once. They had the field goal post up for Season 3 of the Demons, though. They still had them up from that previous Shark season, if I remember right.
I think that was I'm guessing the reason for that was behind the glass was just those steel or those metal guardrails there, which could kind of do a little bit of damage if you went through them. So it was kind of a safety reason to keep the glass up.
Well, I think that's the reason why they did it, because you hit those railings and stuff like that, and it would hurt.
If your arm or your neck got caught in there, you'd be in big trouble.
And And the thing, too, unlike other places you can see indoor football where you flip over the boards, hey, you're with the fans. Not so much. It's almost like a miniaturized pit, if you will. Not quite like Oakwood, you're sitting on the second floor, the game's on the first floor, but you get the
Yeah, it was about like maybe 4, like I'd say maybe 4 feet that was the concourse above the ground floor. But going back to a different subject about the Hare Arena, if you don't mind me deviating a little bit.
Go for it.
I can't remember where it was. It was like maybe last week or a week and a half ago when I finally saw that Hare Arena is finally being auctioned off by the IRS.
Yeah, I did see that too.
I think the auction's happening tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
Anyone want to lend me money to make Hare Arena awesome again? Because that'd be cool. I mean, that's a pretty penny. I think my girlfriend and I were talking about it too, just because,
Yep.
you know.
Minimum bid of $850,000. And that's just to buy the property. That's not counting any kind of money that would be used to repair the whole thing.
That's just you own the lot. And I think that counts the golf course back there too, Hare Greens. I think.
I don't think you're going to be able to repair Hare Arena in any way, shape, or form, because that place is just, it's too far gone to be repaired.
And we talk a lot about Hare Arena moments. I mean, I think that's the most time the three of us has spent together was hockey/indoor football season.
Probably more hockey and such, but you're absolutely right. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And I've spent, being a lot older than you guys, I've spent a lot more time out there than both of you combined. And, I miss it. I really do. And I know a lot of people around here, the hockey people, they really miss it. You had the Silver Sticks out there. You had Winterland, where people could go and ice skate, just for the heck of it. And it was just a great place to go to watch hockey or watch concerts, just do anything you wanted to do. Plus, the shows that they had out there, like Shop Till You Drop, a Christmas show that they had out there. They had this Carl Casper's custom car show that they brought in some. You talk about some cars. My goodness, they were looking good.
And I like me some classic cars. I don't know if a lot of people know that about me, but I do like classic cars.
You would have loved that one.
And you mentioned Winterland too, Doug. In the later heydays, that was the home of Wright State's club hockey team. And I remember being the sports director of the radio station at that time, and we got to sit in one of the corners. And, of course, the corner was where we couldn't see the scoreboard at all, and we could barely see what's happening on the ice because it's so foggy. But those are always the best games to go to. And, Brian, we were talking about this pre-recording. The one Wright State Dayton game where there's like 6 Flyers and 5 Raiders in the box. I'm like,
good Lord.
11 players in the box. I mean, people want to say that, it doesn't matter because it's not scholarship. But I tell you what, it's still hockey to me. And I am Billy Joel, and I approve this message.
At the same time, anytime we got, again, the rivals, like, and everyone knows Dayton, Wright State, how can you... What else is there to say as far as rivalries go? And something like that, things are definitely going to get chippy.
You can have 2 competitive teams in knitting, and you still have, like, knits and I don't
competitive knitting. That would be something.
I will broadcast that. I will broadcast that if that, makes people realize.
If ESPN 8 makes another comeback, then do that again.
They were on. What day was that?
It was not too long. Was it maybe last week and a half, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, the 8th of 8, because, the Ocho, because it's 8. Get it, Doug? 8 is Ocho. Ocho is 8.
Okay. I get it.
What was it? ESPN Classic?
Yeah, it was ESPNU.
Yeah, there's just here's like Swedish cannonball shooting or something. You guys get what I'm saying. But to wrap this all up,
ESPN would do something like that in the early years too. They had almost anything. They were just trying to get a name out, just like we are, and they just did anything. And you'd be surprised back in the early 80s what they had on.
Remember seeing a whole bunch of stuff on ESPN Classic, and World's Strongest Man stuff was one of them. But there's crazy. But going back, you wanted to wrap up stuff about hair. But I'll get one more tidbit in about hair before we go on to the next subject. One of my biggest passions is professional wrestling, and of course, wrestling's got a deep, deep history at Hair Arena. I mean, the last ever show, I think, wrestling show there was probably a Ring of Honor event, and maybe a few years ago, but they had a lot of stuff there. WWE, WCW, ECW had a couple pay-per-views there. And I think it was in the early to mid 80s, Jim Crockett Promotions, which is the forerunner to WCW. They had one of their first expansion shows outside of the South at Hera Arena. And even before that, I'm trying to remember who, I don't even know what the name of the promotion was, but the original Sheik, I think was that Big Time Wrestling? I can't remember the name, but Sheik actually ran ran Hera Arena for major shows in the Dayton area. That was like in the 60s and 70s.
I need to learn more about wrestling, and I know Mark Schlemmer wants to talk about that in the next podcast episode too. But go ahead, Doug.
Well, wrestling that was pretty big back in the 50s and 60s around here too, and there's a lot of wrestling fans that not only did they go out to Hera, but before Hera, Channel 2 had it in their studio. They had wrestling in their studio.
I know wrestling was actually pretty common in the 60s and the 70s, but that was just TV stuff to mainly. But those were just basically paid advertisements for their big arena shows that would come to town. They would use the studio stuff to sell like shows at Hera Arena.
Yeah, Omar Williams did the broadcast right from the studios down there on Kettering Boulevard, right where we are now.
And Omar Williams, that's a blast from the past. I can tell you, being a kid in the 90s that wasn't a sports fan, I still know who Omar Williams was. And that's how I think I remember the old Wright State Viking Raider logo, because it was always colorful. It's like, ooh, what's that? But no, Omar Williams, definitely a throwback moment for me. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes, and great guy too. Let me wrap this Hair Arena point up by saying, if you ever want to look at two local Daytonians that know local sports, Brian Reiss, Doug Brown of GCSN, they know their stuff. Let me ask this, gentlemen. What?
Quit lying.
I act like I know anything, but I don't.
Let me give you one more tidbit about the Hera Arena.
All right, one more.
Back in the 70s, I think it was 76, 77, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
Washington Capitals had their training camp down here.
Yeah, the Lefty McFadden experiment.
And also Lyle Stig was one of the first announcers for the Washington Caps.
That's right. Did he come back to do Bombers or no?
I think he did a few games with the Bombers. I know he came back, and I know he was on Channel 7 for a while. He was on Channel 22 for a while.
I see. So let me ask the next question of the podcast. How did you, Brian and Doug, meet?
All right, I will answer that one, but I definitely know it was connected to, we were talking about indoor football. We met through that. It was the first year of the Miami Valley Silverbacks. I can't believe I remember that still. I think their first season was in 2006, and I was one of the fans that was with the fan club and such behind the visitors bench, and Doug was the PA announcer.
And that was the Hobart days, right?
Yep, that was the first season at Hobart Arena, and those were some really fun times.
Yeah, you were the Crazies in Section 32, I think, wasn't it?
I don't remember the exact section number, but I won't doubt you there.
You two have to come back and see Hobart after its complete renovation, because I got to see...
Is the renovation done now, or?
Is it done?
I think so.
Because when I went there for the Miami Valley Freeze tournament last part of 2016, it wasn't quite done, but it was getting there. And I think I was talking about that with Jim on episode 4 of the podcast. You know how you enter on the east side of... No, wait, east? Is that west? No, I guess that's west side of the building. Yeah, if you enter on the west side of the building, now you're entering towards the river side of the building. they've redone it. It's real nice.
Huh.
I'd love to go up
I would
see
have
them.
to. I agree with you, Doug. I want to check it out just for yucks too. I mean, I had some good memories at Hobart Arena.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they brought an FHL team there.
I think you're outvoted there 2-1, Doug.
And I say that because Hobart had the single A hockey experience. How do I know? Because I was an intern for their single A team.
Troy Bruins.
Troy Bruins, right after the NJHL season, Northern Junior Hockey League season. And it originally started off great. I mean, there was a team in Cincinnati, the Queen City Storm, and I think the closest team up north would have been Lapeer, Battle Creek. I think there might have been a third Michigan team up there. And then you had Dwyer, Indiana, which is close to Chicago. They were the Indiana Blizzard. Then they became the Chi-Town Shooters. Shooters? Yeah, Shooters. Battle Creek ended up winning the whole thing, and then they turned into a junior hockey league team as the Battle Creek Junior Revolution, most notably for their 3-win season. I think they went 371 or something. It was
Good
bad.
Lord.
Yeah, 3 wins in the whole season. It wasn't great. And then they turned into the West Michigan Wolves. And for this season in the NA3HL, they are the Lansing Wolves. I think I got my timeline correct on that whole spiel. But yeah, Troy had their single A experience, and it lasted half a season.
I don't know if you would know this, but why did they go from junior hockey to single A? I will admit I didn't go to any of their games as a single A, but I went to plenty of their junior games, and those were fun times.
I don't know. I did not. I wasn't part of the junior hockey team with Troy. I was still in college, and when I joined with the Bruins, that's when I first met JT Sabo. He's now working at a HIO in town. He's a good guy. So that's how I met JT. I don't know the full answer on that. I do know his dad, Rick Szabo, is the head coach of Wright State. He's now the head coach of the Raiders, and they're now at Springfield's National Trail Parks and Rec Chiller, or just Springfield Chiller.
Yeah, Rick used to. He played one season with the old Cincinnati Stingers of the WHA, and he came up here and he started playing with the Troy Sabres in Troy, and that's where he met his wife, and he decided to stay. And then he was head coach of the Troy Trojans hockey team too.
That's right. They're good. They're a good high school team. I got to meet some of the Trojan fans while broadcasting with Centerville and eventually Springboro and Kettering Alter. They do have some good fans, and it's fun calling high school hockey. And like I mentioned, maybe not on this recording, but eventually there's going to be a high school hockey podcast episode. You can put money on that. I guarantee you. We're back on hockey. That's like the glue that's holding all of us on here, and we do miss hockey. I mean, yes, there's a junior hockey team in town. Yes, there's high school hockey. But this will be year number 2 without pro hockey, which is single A and above on that ladder in Dayton, Ohio.
And a lot of that, again, had to go back to Harrow, but a lot of it had to do with Harrow Arena's closure. That was pretty much the only major venue that could hold hockey in the area.
And going back to episode 2, if the Dayton Arrows did build that downtown rink, what would happen? Would it be like the Dayton Dragons on the ice type of thing, where we're talking about over, I don't know what the streak is at now, but I know it's still over 1,000 straight games of sellouts? I don't know. And plus, that just brewed into my noggin that one episode I'd like to have Chuck Gabringer join me, and we talk about his book, Hockey in Dayton, which, by the way, for you listening out there, great book. Pick it up.
I sort of remember what we were talking about beforehand. You were just asking how Doug and I met, and that's where we mentioned the Hobart Arena, and we just sort of drifted off course. But let's go back to that a little bit. I can't remember exactly where we shook hands and met up afterwards. So I think Doug and I started talking a lot more regularly when I became a season ticket holder for the Bombers. And I do remember, I think it was during a viewing for one of their playoff games at the Cadillac Jacks in Beaver Creek, which is now Caddy's Tap House.
Yeah, which is still weird to think that it's not Cadillac Jacks, it's Caddy's.
Yeah, but Doug and I, we met each other again. We just started chatting about sports and just watching the Bombers game and such, and that's when it really started to grow. And then we run into each other more at the other Bombers games, and it just blossomed from there.
And I know, I think the three of us, I mean, how I got to meet you two was Dayton Airstrikers when I was, that was the season that the Troy Bruins single A experience. In January, told that the team was gone, so I'm looking for something else, and happened to find that the Airstrikers were a thing at Kettering Fairmont High School, well, the James S. Trent Arena, and I think that's how I met Doug and Brian face to face.
I think so. Yep, that was the first time I met you, and that's you and I had the pleasure of doing stats for the Strikers there, even though I had never done stats at any level before, and I mean, I pretty much like in the days leading up to that season, I was on the website. What was it, the FIBA? They had their statisticians manual, and I tried to figure out like exactly what an assist is, what a shot is, and I mean, assist is the big thing, but
yeah, we both learned it was 3 dribbles off the ball, you still get an assist, but on the 4th, then you don't.
I don't think it was that. I think it was just a little bit more vague than that, but I know what you mean. I think it had had to be a shot directly from a pass from another player, and
yeah, something like that. I
there's
know
lots of criteria there, but
I didn't know. That's my first time doing stats.
That reminds me of another story about the Airstrikers. Do you remember? It was after one game, one of the visiting guys wanted us to bump their stats because they got paid so much more for a certain stat. I can't remember which team that was.
The Quebec Cavs, because their logo was a frog. And actually, that was one of the few Canadian teams that the Premier Basketball League had and helped start the National Basketball League of Canada, which is actually a real big thing up there, apparently.
I've heard a lot of good things about the of NBL Canada.
Yeah. Was the Halifax Rainmen, the St. John Mill Rats, which I don't know what they're called now. It's not the Mill Rats. And now it's the Halifax Hurricane. That doesn't really matter, but yeah, we remember that team. I remember that night. It's like, yeah, we'll try. We never did.
Yeah.
We're nearly 30 minutes in, guys, and we've bounced sports stories upon sports stories upon sports stories, and it's amazing. It's amazing to think that.
You know that little notebook you got in front of you? Just throw it out the window.
Well, I don't have a window nearby, but
don't worry about that. Just
we're going to have like a 5-hour episode that's going to clog the servers of GCSN. That I can't get it onto iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher or TuneIn or the ways you can listen to my podcast. Well, nice plug in there, me.
We're doing part 1, part 2.
I thought about doing that for Mark's first episode, but I'm like, nah, it'll be okay.
Well, what's next?
Let's see. What is next? Gentlemen, tell me a little bit about the before stages of GCSN and what was the exact moment you knew you wanted to create the Gem City Sports Network? Whoever wants to answer.
I'll let you handle this one, Doug.
Well, going back to when, Brian, he came up to me and he asked me about it, and we threw it around together, and we decided we're going to come up with it, and we're going to start doing games. We're going to start. Our motto is basically we do schools and organizations that don't get a lot of loving in the Dayton media, and it's no fault of the Dayton because they just don't have the horses they used to have. Dayton Daily News, they've only got a few reporters downtown, working. Down there, they get these contributing reporters, you see in the paper every once in a while. Mike Hartsock's the lone wolf down there at Channel 7. And then you got 2 guys over 22 and 2 at Channel 2. You got Jack Pohl and Neil Connerman, Hutch Connerman over there too. And then you got Reggie Wilson and James Wright over at 22. And they just can't cover everything. And,
also, Eric Elkin, he's the sports director.
Yeah, he's more of a news guy right now anyway. But
yeah, he's the morning anchor, isn't he?
No, he's on it. He's a reporter at night and weekend anchor on Saturday and Sunday.
Huh.
But it's just they can't go out and cover everything because they don't have the horses to go out and do everything. I mean, you'll see good coverage on Friday night, on football, high school football. But I mean, what Brian and I do, I mean, we've done everything from Australian rules football to volleyball to a little bit of everything. Racing, auto racing, and that's what I really wanted to get into this year. But unfortunately, something happened. But next year, I mean, we've had a lot of listeners for auto racing, and we just, if there's something that comes up, and Brian, you can chime in on this too. If there's something that you see or something I see and we want to do it, we do it. We just call up and ask them if we can do it. And
more times than not, they're more than happy to have us.
Exactly. I mean, like I did this racing from Waynesfield up near Indian Lake. Had 125 listeners, or had 125 downloads. A baseball game I did earlier this year between Tip and Vandalia. It wasn't live, but I had 125 downloads off of it. It's just amazing what we, something that we do. We just say, "Hey, let's do it," and look what happens. You get a bunch of listeners.
I think it's going to be in about maybe 3 months from now. We're going to hit 5 years now.
Yeah,
5 years of GCSN, and there's been a lot of events you guys covered.
Oh yes, and let me talk a little bit more, maybe a little bit of a backstory, Doug. I'll apologize if I'm stepping on any toes and such. It started a little bit maybe before the November and such. I mean, we were all like hands in hands with another website. We all know what it is. I won't say it, but long story short, we could see that it wasn't exactly a good fit for us. So we all, at various points, took a leave, and shortly after that, Doug and I was just we were either bouncing off ideas for just on emails and on the phone, and then we came up with the idea for Gem City Sports and started doing a little bit of planning, and eventually we got to that one Sinclair game as the pilot, and then the infamous game at Belmont.
There's not a lot of stations out there that do this one thing. Whose idea was it to archive the games?
I think that was yours, wasn't it, Brian?
Yeah, I'll take credit for that one.
I mean, that's one of the coolest things I thought about GCSN, the internet station before, which, all three of us were part of. They didn't archive the games. I know there was a player for a team that I covered that wanted to rehear the broadcast, and I did that like twice. But at the same time, archiving games when people can't listen to them when they're live and going back and being able to live those moments again, that's special.
And at the same time, it's not uncommon for some of the other national services. I mean, obviously ESPN, their Watch ESPN service, they've got a lot of their games archived on their servers as well. So it's kind of a natural thing that you got to do in order just to keep interest in.
Yeah, and another thing, it lets the players listen to that game too. If they had a good game or something like that, say in basketball, they had 30, 40 points, then they want to listen to it and relive it and let people know about it.
Yeah, and also families and such. They just like to hearing their son or daughter's name being mentioned on the air or online. Yeah,
I mean, we get people listening from all over the world, and it's just like the guys that, like Mike Moselle from the Dayton Lions. He wants to listen to his team, and he gets to do it when he's over in the Netherlands. And that goes for any of the people that, like for the hockey. When you did hockey there, Lee, people in Canada wanted to listen to it, or some, people over in Russia or Czechoslovakia or something like that. If their son was playing, at least they could listen to the game, and hear what he does. And it was great to have to be able to do all the home games. At least that way, their families and friends can listen to it.
I mean, I wish I could have done the away games too, but it wasn't happening with
No, that's true.
Things happening. But going back on that point, I hope I'm getting this right, but Lester Brown's family it's like from the Netherlands. He listened to it, or his family listened to it. He was a member of the Demons third year, and he was the one that had the really good hands where he could drive the puck up, and literally he would just make a curve and then just shoot it, and then bam, it's in the back of the net. That's one goal I just always remember calling. It's just, I think that was one of my better goal calls type of thing.
It's also good for us because we can go back and listen to it. We can go back and listen to, if we had a good game or something like that, we can go back and listen to ourselves. And if we make a mistake or if we do something wrong or have a bad game, we can go back and listen to it and say, okay, well, this is what I did wrong.
I'd also say it's a good demo builder, but the problem is if you have a lot of games and you don't know which one to pick, then good luck.
But that's a problem. That's a nice problem to have, though.
Yes, that is true. That is a nice problem to have. We got Doug Brown calling in from Brookville. We got Brian Reiss, the co-owners of the Gem City Sports Network, the host of the Gem on the Queen's Crown, a podcast I do about Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio sports, episode number 7. And we're about halfway through. Gentlemen, before we continue, thank you for taking the time to be on here with me. I wanted to get you guys on here because, A, people should know about what you guys do and what you guys know about Dayton sports, and B, Gem City Sports is a very nice thing to have.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lee.
Let me ask this. For 2017-2018, Brian got the ball rolling with soccer Saturday, and that was that Wayne in Miamisburg or Wayne in Middletown?
It was Wayne and Middletown.
The Warriors and the Middies, where everyone thinks that they know what the Middies are, and apparently it's... Oh, now I forget. Oh, wait, no. In Middletown's old high school gym, I don't know if it's still their gym, it was a wizard, because Middletown's known for wizards.
I've been in one of the Middletown gyms many, many years back during my short stint as a basketball referee. I don't remember seeing any of that.
Maybe I don't remember. Maybe I'm making that up.
But then again, that was sort of experience I kind of wanted to forget. But
someone from Middletown, let me know if I'm not making that up. And no, that wasn't Wade Miller Gym. That wasn't that one. It was actually Middletown's high school across from Miami Middletown. So maybe that's it. Which, by the way, didn't Wade Miller close this year?
Yeah, I think he did. And I think he opened a new school and a new gym went with it.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Chick Lugwood that shared that. And I was like, I'd never been in it, but I felt my heart just kind of hurt. Just because that's historic. I mean, when you think of basketball, you probably think, ooh, look what Indiana's doing, because, that's basketball state USA. But when you talk about Ohio gyms, there's not a lot of historical venues, and Miller was one. Now it's not.
One thing you'll find out when you talk to that Brady Cress, you'll find out a lot of Dayton history. Like, for example, Belmont High School, they had Don May, who went to UD, and Bill Hoskett, that went to Ohio State, both on the same team. And the only time Belmont ever won a state championship was with those two guys, and that was back in 1964.
I do need to get a hold of them. That is one idea that I haven't cashed in on yet. And recently, Twin Valley South's been sharing a lot of upgrades they've done to their building. The old elementary wing that I was going to school in, that's now the West Alexandria Bulldogs wing, and then the middle school wing, which I went there for a year in middle school, is the Lanier Tigers wing, and the high school wing being Twin Valley South. And around there, West Alex only state title was the boys track and field title in 1959. But I like learning history. I like learning things. I need to find if there's a Preble County one. I mean, I know that's kind of away from Cincinnati and Dayton, but that's hey, home county type of thing. Yeah, it's
Miami Valley.
Yeah, and it's my home county, and it's something neat because now you have 5 districts, but back then you had almost every little village had their own school. You had Gratis, the Trojans. They just celebrated 125 years. What else did you have? Dixon? Is it Dixon? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I forget what the original question was. Oh, yeah, 2017-2018. Brian got the ball rolling with Soccer Saturday, Wayne versus Middletown. That's my fault that it spiraled off the thing. I apologize.
No worries, man.
Soccer Saturday, Doug, you've been doing I mean week 1 scoreboard show.
Yeah.
Which has just been one so far. But what's on tap for this season for you guys?
Well, Lee, like you just said, for me, again, it's pretty much just going to be Soccer Saturdays because it's anyone who's on heard me talk knows it's difficult to do stuff and manage a full-time job as well. So I figured Soccer Saturday is a good thing. Plus, there's a lot of good games that are actually happening this season. I'm trying to remember. Next week, I've got this coming Saturday. It's going to be at the CJ. The boys, CJ boys are going to be hosting Belmont.
And you're going to be at the Glass.
Yep, Roger Glass Stadium. That's one of my favorite stadiums out there, and it's only going to be the third time they're going to be on the opposite side of the field versus my normal spot in the danger zone. But
I love the danger zone.
Yep, but at the week after that, I've got a big one. It's going to be Beaver Creek Boys hosting St. Charles, and that's going to be a rematch of last year's state semifinal, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh, that is nice.
That's going to be one heck of a match, too.
Yep.
You might see some future Raiders on that Beaver Creek squad because Coach Davis of Wright State, he's been reeling in the local talent. I mean,
yeah, you were talking about Carroll. You mean Carroll High School?
Yes.
Speaking of, one of my big ones in that season is actually going to be a doubleheader. I'm going to be heading up to Tippecanoe at the suggestion of Jim DeBelt. It's going to be a doubleheader, boys and girls. The Red Devils against the Patriots.
That'll be a good one.
I think I was originally going to do just the girls, but when I saw the boys were there at the same weekend, I'm like, I got to do this.
Yeah, when you got 2 games instead of 1, you got to do the DH. You got to do the DH, right, Doug? I mean, you don't have to, but
you don't have to.
I try not, personally, just to avoid burnout, I try not to, but this one was too good to pass up.
Fair enough. I like that. And Doug, week 2 scoreboard coming up for you this Friday. What do you expect to see in week 2?
Oh, I expect to see a lot of good games. One is going to be right over here in Brookville when the Anna Rockets come into town. Both teams won big. Bellbrook won 34-7 over Tri-County North, and Anna, I forget who they beat. They beat Arlington like 50-something to nothing.
Did you say 34-7 Brookville over TCN?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was they had to use the running clock on that.
Yeah, because in Ohio, 30 points or more at halftime?
Yeah, in the second half, if it's 35 or more, then it goes into running clock, and the only time you stop the clock is on an out of bounds or a injury timeout, or if a team calls a timeout, and that's the only way to do it. Anna won 52-0 over Arlington the other night. And yeah, there's a lot of high scores. As a matter of fact, the highest score that I saw was from Cincinnati, and that was Wyoming beating North College Hill 76-6.
And North College Hill, once upon a time, had O.J. Mayo, who is not playing NBA. He's trying to get back, but that's just one thing I know about North College Hill down there, the Trojans. But Wyoming's always had a pretty good football program as well. When I remember going to Valley View, it's always in the playoffs. It's Valley View, Wyoming, and Valley View won most of those battles.
Well, I like to do. I like the schools that they're Cincinnati and Dayton, but I also go as far as the Western Buckeye League up in Auglaize County with Wapakoneta and Salina, St. Mary's, Van Wert, and all those schools up there because they get coverage from the Lima area, but they also get coverage from here. So I like to give them a little time and stuff like that. I think there's like 115 or 120 schools that have football in this area from Cincinnati all the way up to Lima and beyond.
It's insane to think about how much high school football we're really exposed to in Southwest Ohio. I mean, we just got a new team, too, in the Tri-Village Patriots, and I think it's either this year or next year they're full-fledged cross-county conference foes.
It's this year.
Oh, it is this year? I've lost track of time.
Yeah.
So that's nice to see, and I think the only CCC schools that don't have it now is Franklin Monroe, the Jets, and no relation to Franklin or Monroe, Ohio. That's townships in Darke County, and Newton, the Indians.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And also Fort Laramie joined the group too, joined the CCC.
Yes, they did. Was
I
that
believe.
just for football, or is it also for hoops?
I think it's just for football, but I'm not sure.
That's what I thought too, but I wasn't fully sure on that. So,
But I got 8 scores the other night out of, and I couldn't tell you how many games that there was, probably 90 to 100, something like that.
there's a lot of games on here. Just I looked at my first paper in a long time, and just because I wanted to see some of them. Like I saw Valley View beating Wilmington in Germantown. I was like, wow, that's a pretty big win because Wilmington, is a big school district.
Valley View's got their team back again. That's the thing. They've got their kids back that are playing, and they're a good team. And one game that I'd like to see is Brookville against Valley View, which is going to be down at Valley View this year. I'd like to see that game. Just go to it.
Bellbrook Valley View is always good. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember a couple years I did for GCSN. I thought, oh, hey, the Eagles and the Spartans are just going to knock themselves silly and end up Bellbrook winning 33-0 or something. But then again, the Spartans' main running back was hurt, and that was when he was done for the year, I think, if I'm remembering right. But all I remember is I think that was homecoming, and I know from my previous experience, Valley View and Bellbrook are mortal enemies.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just like Carroll CJ or Carroll Alter, Beaver Creek, yeah.
Or Twin Valley, I was about to say Twin Valley North, but this isn't 1985. Twin Valley South and Tri-County North, because both of them are the Panthers and both of them are red and gray. And once upon a time, both of them were Twin Valley.
And, and you got to remember, too, that even out of these 115, 120 schools that have football, they all have soccer, both boys and girls soccer, which is amazing because you get all these kids that are playing. Look at all these kids that are playing high school sports, whether it be JVs, freshmen, varsity, whatever. You're getting all these kids playing sports, and some of them like a new Luke Kennard. I mean, look what he did.
He's in the NBA. He's from Franklin, Ohio. Who would think that, Franklin, Ohio, that's going to be the birthplace of what could be an NBA star. Now, of course, not a single man in NBA so far, but just think. If he does well, if he does good, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
And, you just look at all the kids that have come out of this area that have gone onto the pros. And it's just amazing. And that's why I like doing the smaller schools, in which we've done a lot of those. I know, Lee, you've done some over here in Preble County. The Middletown Madisons and the Preble Shawnees and the Eaton Eagles and so forth. Tri-County North, Twin Valley South.
I liked it when I only had to drive 5 minutes to my school.
and then Brian, you're doing Carroll. And you're doing Bellbrook and so forth like that. Oakwood, they're right there. I mean, they don't get a lot of coverage. Dayton Christian.
I'm mildly upset that I'm not going to be able to go to Dayton Christian to do that one, and I think you're going to be taking over for me in that one.
That's only a girls' game now because they switched.
It's only girls?
The boys game. They switched the boys' game to another date because of a wedding that day. And so they're only going to have the girls' game at noon. And I think they switched the boys' game between Dayton Christian and Catholic Central to another date. And I still got the email. I think I'll.
That's a bizarre reason to cancel a high school game of any kind.
Well, that could have been one of the coaches, too. Don't know.
Either way, it's still bizarre.
Yeah, it is. But it's.
But either way, I'm still disappointed that I'm not going to be able to make that one. I went there last year. They did not have a press box. I think it was either being reconstructed or whatever, and it wasn't in any state to be occupied at all. So that was one of my not-so-fun trips. I literally had to bring in sort of a mobile press box, if you will, which was basically a 10-foot by 10-foot tent, which you've probably seen before, Lee, and you too, Doug. Folding table, the laptop, all my stuff, and a giant marine battery, which was like 50 pounds or so. That's so much fun to lug around.
So much fun, he says, without air quotes.
We still got it on, and a lot of people appreciated it too.
Yeah, but I will tell you what, it took maybe about an hour or so after the broadcast to load everything back up into the car, and it was October, and I was sweating bullets by the time I left.
I can imagine. But getting back to the original question, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. Like Brian says, we got some more soccer coming up on Saturdays. Bellbrook at Chaminade Julienne, and down at Roger Glass Stadium, and we got Sinclair volleyball coming up too. It's not going to happen this week. I mean, I think they're on the road for a long time. I think until the end of September.
And if you listened to last week's podcast episode, I am sorry I didn't get to college volleyball. College football and college soccer took up an hour and a half, and I'm like, I didn't even get to high school football or college volleyball. I'm disappointed in myself because college volleyball, there's a lot more programs to talk about. I mentioned the college soccer, and Sinclair does not have a team, but I did mention if, the Tartans and the Tartan Pride ever thought, hey, soccer, that's where it's at, maybe AIA would be available. I don't know.
Maybe Roger Glass might be willing, or CJ and Roger Glass Stadium, maybe, or since they're nearby.
I like your thinking. That's just a stone throw away from campus, isn't it?
Yep, and I know that they would let them use the big field. They got the auxiliary field on the side. That could be good too. It was not FIFA width. It's not that wide enough, but you can still use it.
It's usable. That's the thing.
Yeah, anything can be used if people want to just let them use it. I mean, I think we were all involved with the Dayton Diamonds women's football team, right?
I wasn't. I wanted to broadcast, but I never got on board.
I don't think we ever actually did broadcast anything from the Diamonds at all.
And that's women's football for those that don't know, and that's actual tackle, not lingerie. Ha.
Yeah, but I kind of missed that. That's been gone for like how many years now?
Oh, that's been gone for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Tanya Jackson, I'm still, we're good friends with, Brian and I, we're still good friends with her. And, but, it's just like, they went to different stadiums and stuff like that. And it was all dependent if the school itself wanted to allow them to come in and play their games there. I mean, they were at Fairmont, Northmont, Jefferson, and I forget where the other one was.
I remember the Northmont one, I think.
I remember Northmont. I remember Springboro and Jefferson. Those are the ones I remember.
Okay, Springboro was the other one then. But, those girls, I wouldn't want to get them ticked off at me. I mean, they'd flatten me. They'd flatten all of us. I mean, they went out there and they played like the NFL. And they were hitting hard. And some of the girls, they got hurt, and they just they knew they weren't going to be able to play, but yet they were determined to make a go of it and say, "Hey, we're a women's pro football team. We can do this. We can play the game of football." But it's something like that. Going back to what you said about Sinclair maybe playing down at Roger Glass, that field. I mean, the first ever home field of the Chaminade Julienne Eagles. And we did the first broadcast from there. You did a broadcast from there, too. The first
soccer game and such there.
Yeah, the first soccer match. First ever event there.
Maybe I don't think I did the first ever one. I think there was a girls one that was happening early on, and I don't think I could get there until the boys one. But I think that one actually never really counted because they called it due to weather.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The infamous lightning delays.
Fun. I should say, too, if Sinclair did have soccer, the only Cincinnati State and Sinclair battle you'll get this season is soccer, because Cincinnati State closed up shop on everything except because they have the teams.
Yep, I remember that. And soccer, from what I remember, would have been on the chopping block too, except they found a way to get their finances in straight before the season began. So,
Bearcats men's soccer team had a Cincinnati State guy. I forget who he is, but I saw it on the roster, and I know I did. So
not bad.
Yeah. We're here with Brian Reiss and Doug Brown. We're talking GemCitySports.com. We're talking Dayton sports. And we have talked a lot of Dayton sports, gentlemen. Just what we all know is it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think this has been a very good episode so far. And like I said, thank you for allowing me to host my podcast, being a part of it. I know I haven't been able to help as much as I have in years gone by, but being able to talk Cinday sports on here it's been awesome, and people seem to like it. So thank you, gentlemen.
Well, I know I do. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have a tool like this because, like you and Mark Schlemmer were saying, people want to talk Dayton sports, or they want to talk sports here in Dayton. Mm-hmm. And where else can they go? I mean, you can talk sports here. I mean, Schlemmer is great at it. And if you really want to go after a big gun, go after Chick Ludwig, too, because he knows a lot about it, too.
I do need to say hi to Chick again. Chick had me on one of his radio shows when he was on 980 a couple years back.
I think Doug, you were on his show one time on 980, too.
Actually,
one or two times.
I think... Hang on, let me pull up the time.
I'm pretty sure Doug was on there, too, I believe so.
I've been on a couple of times.
Let me pull up the time hop, because I think it was a couple years to this day. And yes, I use time hop to remember such things like that. Don't judge. And also, last year was that bad flood at Roger Bacon Field. Doug, I can't show you because you're not here in Kettering, but I can show you, Brian. And
oh my goodness, Doug, you can't see this, but it's pretty much brown water as far as the eye can see.
And I know Roger Bacon's colors are brown and gold, not unlike Alters, but that's water. That's not a brown field. That's water.
I can imagine what it looks like.
Oh yeah, it was bad. That was 1 year ago, not today. So let's go through the time hop. This is a very exciting portion of the podcast. If anyone ever wants to sponsor it, we can use...
Running play-by-play commentary of watching Lee flip through his phone.
Swipe, 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 swipe. Whoa.
Well, we can always say what's coming up this weekend on the Gem City Sports Network.
Well, we've already done that, but why the heck not?
We still got Central State football coming up this weekend, too.
The second, you got Elizabeth City State University in town.
Right.
That is probably one of the longest college names I've had to spit out, and that one was kind of flawless at that point. Although, there's St. Mary's of the Woods that I said last week, and I think it was IU East Soccer. It was D3 Soccer, something like that. But
do you mind if I just derail stuff a little bit? I mean, while you're flipping through stuff, I got a question of my own I want to ask you guys. Just
okay.
Since we're all tied up in with the Gem City Sports, GemCitySports.com in some way.
It's not on there, so go ahead.
What would you say for each of you was your most memorable, positively memorable broadcast? As maybe not even with Gem City Sports, but as overall.
Doug, you probably have a lot more than me on this one. You can go first.
Well, one game I remember was last year doing Central State basketball. It was a girls' game or a women's game, and it was like just a couple of seconds left, and a girl made a layup. She went baseline, made her. I think it was I don't know if it was a reverse layup or what, but she it went in, and the place erupted, and the Central State Marauders, they won the game. It's games like that I like, or it could be, that was the most memorable game that I've ever called.
And also Beacom Lewis too. I've been in that gymnasium. It's quite nice, especially when the marching Marauders are up there and they're making noise. You can't hear yourself talk. You can't hear yourself think in there. It's amazing. It's a great gym. And Central State basketball is good too.
And they're on top of you. I mean, they sit down at the end, at the end of the court, and they're right on top of you.
It's almost like, again, going back to Oakwood's pit, but that's really the only gym I know that does it. But it's a 3/4 pit because you can sit all around except for the wall with the scoreboard on it on the second story.
I have yet to go to Central State for anything. Doug, you're going to have to remind me to, when I'm not busy with something else or I've got another UD game or whatever, you got to remind me to get to one of those games. I want to check it out. Plus, just going back to Sinclair, it's been a while since I've been in Sinclair's gym, and I always like those games. I kind of missed that place. So I'm going to have to remind myself to go back to some. There's plenty of stuff that I've been missing out on.
The only building, or the only gym named Building 8, Mark Schlemmer, sometime a couple years back. I don't remember.
Many times.
Many moons ago, Mark has said the only building named Building 8 or something like that.
The only arena called Building 8.
Yes, that's what it was.
That's it.
I know I won Building twice, but that's...
And you know Jeff Price will say that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Preble County guy, too.
Yep, Tri-County North, Lewisburg.
TCN. Lord, wait. Did he graduate Tri-County or Twin Valley North?
Probably Twin Valley.
We'll have to ask him. One day we'll have to get Jeff Price on here too. Mark told me he's got some good stories.
And Steve Denneman, the baseball coach down there.
Steve Denneman's a good guy.
Yes, he is. The one broadcast I had with Sinclair baseball was at the University of Dayton's now Spectrum Stadium.
The Spectrum now, whatever they call it.
The Spec. I like that. I hope I can use that, but I don't think. But no, the Spectrum Stadium now. The pregame interview I did with him, 20 minutes. We were talking about what's coming up. About, I think it was Northwestern Ohio's JV squad, the Racers.
Right, it was, because that's the only team they played down there.
And of course, UNOH being most notably known for their purple infield, or not purple, maroon infield. It's awesome. I think it's still natural outfield grass, but the infield's artificial and it's maroon colored. It's awesome.
That would be, I've never seen it before. That sounds too bizarre for me, but
I don't know.
It's something that would mess with your mind if you thought about it too much.
I mean, is it any weirder than Eastern Michigan's gray field? Which looks like the TV has blown its bulb.
I've never seen that. The closest thing I've seen to that was in the old arena football days, the LA Kiss had that stupid gray field.
A kiss of football. No. Yes, I remember that. One of the Iowa Barnstormers foes had a gray field. Was it Sioux Falls this year? I think it was Sioux Falls. Maybe Sioux City. I mixed them up on the Schlemmer one, but...
Well, Boise State has a blue field.
Oh, that's one of the most that's the legendary one.
Eastern Washington has a red field. Well, not red, but they have that.
Let's hope Central State or none of these high schools around here do that.
Chaminade Julienne has a green field. Oh, wait.
Well,
oh boy.
They could put a blue field in there too.
But the end zones don't count.
Nah.
No, Boise State has an entirely blue field. And
it's just weird to think, you see, shrines of sports and they're like, hey, let's make an orange field. That will be cool and new and great and people will love it.
My eyes hurt just thinking about that.
The one thing I hate though, and a lot of schools are doing it now, is dark uniforms with dark numbers.
A broadcaster's worst nightmare.
In college, when I was covering women's soccer at WWSU, I think this was Valpo's first or second year in the league. Black jerseys, no filling on the numbers, brown outline. Nighttime.
Ick.
Beat that.
Ashley almost breaks his pen on the floor here.
My worst nightmare was the game last year when Salem International came here.
The Tigers.
And they had black jerseys with dark green numbers. And no outline. And I told the SID up at Central State, I said, there's no way I'm going to call a game if they wear their dark jerseys. I can't do it. I can't tell the numbers.
That is tough.
Trying to remember, Doug. You and I have done. What was it? Which is the big time City League game? Was it Marshall Dunbar, or I think it's something else, or?
We did.
Yeah, when was it? When was it? It was at the Trent Arena. I can't remember.
It was a triple header. Wasn't that a triple header?
It may have been a triple header, but we did the main event, I think, for that one.
Dunbar and Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall and Dunbar. Yeah, I remember one of those teams had nightmare jerseys as well. So
yeah, that was Thurgood Marshall.
Can I tell you about jerseys that weren't nightmarish, but because it was night and the lights were shining on it, the numbers kind of disappeared? Wright State Dayton at Alumni Field. Again, women's soccer, and it's nighttime, and I'm having trouble seeing the Flyers jerseys because the light's bouncing off of it. It's not, a design flaw. It's just the light's bouncing off it. So the Flyer fans that made the trip to Wright State helped me out on the broadcast. I'm like, thank you so much. And wouldn't you know it, I'm working at Wright State and Dayton.
Yeah.
And people are like, wait, why do you have Wright State and Dayton stickers on your car? Because I want to. Never mind.
Who said you can't like both of them?
Exactly. They're good schools, and they're both great for the community like Sinclair is.
Exactly. And what you can do, Lee, is when Dayton and Wright State play, whether it be in volleyball or soccer or whatever or other sport, you get a red sweater, cut it in half, and put a red and green sweater together with Wright State on one side and UD on the other side. Then you can't go wrong.
Doug, do you really think I have the craftsmanship of stitching sweaters together? Because I don't.
That's why they invented duct tape.
I'll just have silver duct tape sweatshirt. I like that. No, I dress who I'm working for. So if I'm doing a Wright State game and Dayton's in town, it's Wright State, and vice versa. If Dayton's hosting Wright State, it's UD gear. I don't cross my employers. I do like the fact that I still saw a perfect game from Wright State baseball and Jesse Schulten's.
Wow.
The first Wright State Dayton game, I get to PA for baseball, and it turns out to be a perfect game where the Raiders win 1-0.
What are the odds?
I was looking in 6 innings, like, that can't be right. Flyers have a walk, right? No? And we're getting closer, like, I just saw a perfect game. And then the next
That's up.
and then the Wright State game I work, like, can I have one of those perfect game shirts? No, but I saw it. You work at UD. Oh. And they were cool because I had Jesse Schulten's beard. And he's been at Fort Wayne. He's in the Padres organization. He's been with Single A Fort Wayne twice. And when he's been with Fort Wayne, he hasn't come through Dayton. I'm kind of upset. I haven't got to see Schulten's pitch. But I think he's in Advanced A, possibly Double A now. But still, it's neat to see the athletes that you get to announce for move up. And you were mentioning that with Luke Kennard. But I think there's 2 athletes from opposition teams that I've seen this year. One is Nick Sine, and he broke the Midwest League record for being hit. 37 hit by pitches. That broke the record. Who was the other one? V-Mile Machine, but he's been I don't think he's with South Bend or Chicago Cubs anymore. I think they traded him, but who isn't there for the Machine? V-Mile Machine, VCU. Still one of my favorite names I've ever announced. So the original question from Brian was on this. The most memorable broadcast? Was that right?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay.
What's yours, Brian? What was yours?
That's a tough one myself. I've had the first one I can think of, maybe not memorable in that I've been in that arena so many times, but never as a member of the media, was University of Dayton Arena when I was going back to the Thurgood Marshall and Dunbar stuff when they had some City League big games there. Just being there at court level. I've been at court level a few times before, but never at that level, like with the court right in front of me. And actually having the opportunity just to stand in the middle of a UD arena, even though it was totally empty, that was, as a UD graduate and a lifelong UD fan, that was special.
And I know where you're coming from, too. being at another center, completely quiet, just having your own thoughts to yourself, like, wow, I'm broadcasting here. It's really cool. And also, my first trip to UD Arena, that's where I actually met one of my bosses at UD, and she's awesome. Crystal's awesome. That's where I first met her. Calling Wright State Dayton women's basketball, but that's not the answers I want to give. You mentioned could be at GCSN, could be away from it. I'll answer both sides for you.
Whatever you like.
For GCSN, I hate to go back to it, but I really think, Game 3 and Game 4, the year the Demons won the Cup. Just because that was the turning point. The night that the Demons had their black jerseys shown, win in OT, win the fourth game in regulation, and then go to Danbury, and we do the Sharks game, Brian, come down to the pub afterwards, and it's 7-2 or something like that, and then we win it 9-2. And just being part of that, just having that energy there at the pub.
I remember feeling a little bit of nerves just being in the penalty box. I mean, we were busy doing the game, but still in the back of my mind thinking, okay, how's the Demons game going?
I shouldn't admit it because it makes me sound like a terrible broadcaster, but I did have the game sheet for the Demons, Game 5 tucked away. Like, I was focusing on the Sharks game. Was that the River Monsters?
It may have been. That was one of the last games of the season, so it very well may have been.
I don't remember if that was that year or not, because I know the last game was Northern Kentucky, because they had the fans below us had the monster horns, like, whoop, or something like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you remember the time we went to Evansville?
Doug's talking to me about this one. I think that was a pre-GCSN trip, I think. That may have been before GCSN, but
I think so. But
I do remember that just being
video form or something like that.
Yeah, I was doing like a little bit of video. It was one of my harebrained video projects that I wanted to do, but never really got off to. But the raw video ended up being used because the coach got kicked out for some reason. He just made an off-color comment to one of the officials, like saying this is like 8 on 12, and then the referee turned around and just kicked him out for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think I was with another station because I think I did it. I was doing the game.
That was for another station. One of the better ones, though.
Yeah.
So I mentioned. Go ahead. So I mentioned that's probably the ones I most remember for GCSN. Which is
those type of games that you're going to remember because they won a championship. I mean, I can go back to the old 75-76 Gems and tell you about the game-winning goal that Stan Jonathan had back in '76.
I'm giving you a little time to talk about that because I mean, this is going to sound great, but you've seen the most sports out of the three of us. That's probably the nicest way I could say that without saying, "Ha, you're old."
I'm old.
I know, but I didn't want to say it, but I did. So that makes it wonderful. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a jerk about that, but that's definitely one of the last things I want to ask while wrapping it up. But
it's just one of those things that you're going to remember. I mean, you've got the ring.
Oh, I wear it every game.
And one of the things I'm going to remember is getting the ring from Sinclair when I went to the World Series.
That's right. I get that one there.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice ring, too.
And that was awfully nice of Sinclair to get one out for you.
Exactly. I love Sinclair, and I love Central State, and all the sports that we do. I can't wait to get back into the booth, and that comes Saturday afternoon. And I set a goal, and it's going to come true. It's going to come true on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it.
All right. And Liam, I hate to go back to you. You were saying like your best number outside of GCSN. Were you about to say that, or? Yeah,
but then I was thinking about it. It's like I've done nearly 1,200 games with a microphone in front of my face. That's not counting the podcast because there's only now 7. I don't know. I mean, last year I was a nervous train wreck because, okay, there's no hockey. What do I do? And I'm lucky that Nick Poe of South Metro Sports picked me up and was like, hey, there's a junior hockey team coming in. You want to broadcast some of those games? Like, yeah. And then a couple games into the season, which, by the way, the team was Cincinnati Thunder of the NA3HL. And then he's like, let's do Centerville games, because he was an assistant coach with the Elks at the time. And they play there at South Metro Sports. So I was like, okay. So I got to meet the greatest fans. I mean, my hockey family grew twice-fold, and there's some trips that I would make, and the players would come up to me. It's like, thank you for broadcasting our games. It's really cool. And we would do these on the Elks YouTube page. They made their own YouTube page, and then we had our capture card. Man, the setup was awesome. I can't wait to go back to it and see it again. But I got to go to Miami University. I got to go to Bowling Green State University. I got to see both their rinks. No, I did not go to the main rink of Miami, though. The club team, the Red Hawks club team was playing. I was like, dang it.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I hope. But we were in the next rink over, and that's still cool because the Zamboni tunnel connects both rinks, and they had a Taco Bell Zamboni of all things. It was cool.
A Taco Bell Zamboni?
A Taco Bell Zamboni, and this is not new colors Taco Bell. This is when they had the purple color scheme too. So it's a purple Zamboni just going around the ice. They had two actually going both, and I was like, okay, time to take a break. And the Zambonis leave the ice. What? What's this? Not period 3 already. Give me a break. But
yeah, we've seen too much low level hockey with just one Zamboni. With the NHL, they got two, and obviously, against NCAA level, I guess they got two available.
I think so. I know with club, it just depends on the rink. You know, Wright State and Dayton don't have two. It's just whatever Kettering and Springfield have. What else was I saying? Miami Bowling Green went up there. Couple of the Chillers, which is, you know, operated by the Blue Jackets. Didn't get to go to Nationwide Arena, but it was cool going to some of the Chillers. We went to Lewis Center for the last playoff game for the Elks. Trying to think. Not Dublin. Easton. We went to the Easton one. And I think that's it.
You know, I think the state playoffs are nationwide for hockey.
Yeah, and that'd be cool to broadcast. I mean, just to be calling the action the same sheet of ice that the NHL Blue Jackets play on. In fact, Beaver Creek this year actually has a chance to do that. And I forget who they play. I don't think it's Olentangy Liberty, but it's ringing a bell. Might be St. Charles.
Huh.
But yeah, Beaver Creek gets to play on Blue Jackets ice.
Well, that's
If you
gonna,
go on Grand Pampas and go over there and do a game.
Yeah, I might see. I mean, it depends what's at South Metro because there's a lot of hockey during the year. In fact,
Well, would you rather do a game, just do one game at nationwide? Because you can do all the games you want to over there.
well, Doug, let's not put him on the spot right now. He's got.
I mean, you still have to pay to broadcast the ones at Nationwide. I think it's like,
Yeah.
what's sad is though, there's not a lot of Cincinnati and Dayton high schools that have hockey. In Dayton, you have Centerville, Springboro, Alter, Oxford, Talawanda, which is nice because they can just play at Miami. In Cincinnati, you got St. X, Elder, Moeller, and I swear there's a fourth one. Oh yeah, LaSalle. LaSalle's coming in this year. And Sycamore. So it's 5. And Sycamore is actually led by former NHLer Blaine Stockton. I got to talk to him a little bit before Centerville's senior day. So, I know there's no pro hockey in Dayton. You have AA with the Cincinnati Cyclones at US Bank Arena, but
It's not the same. Not even close.
high school hockey is awesome. You should give these kids a chance. They play it the right way, and yes, you can check in high school. You just can't fight because you get suspended for that, I believe.
Yep.
There's, I'll say this on the podcast. Last year doing my first youth hockey, it's weird to see checking illegal, but I know why. You don't want to teach just check. Just run everyone into the boards. I had to ask.
Yep, and at that level, it's not about the aggression; it's about the skills.
Yes, I had to ask the referee what this was, which is beat it on your chest. yeah, it's a different sign I never saw. I was like, that means check, right? Yes. So I met a lot of cool people last year at South Metro Sports, and I can't thank them enough for including me part of their hockey family. So thank you. I'll see you this upcoming season, and yeah, that was very long-winded on that, but I don't know if I can really pinpoint memorable broadcasts anymore, because to me, they're all special. I might not remember what happened in the game, who played, or what went on, but at the same time, I was there. So that's pretty cool for me.
I think that's why we do what we do, because we love sports, we love the broadcast, and it just gives the kids and the players something to listen to, saying, "Hey, we're on the internet. You can listen to us in Russia or Ireland or China or Japan or wherever."
Yeah, I like China because they got their crazy, wacky firewalls and such there, but that's another discussion for another podcast.
Yeah. But it's just something that the kids love us when we come out and they see us there. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was out at Central State at their scrimmage game. That was a fan appreciation day, and I had a couple of the basketball players come up and say, "Hey, are you going to come back? Are you coming back next year or this year?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm definitely going to be back." And that's and it's not only that. It's not only the kids from Central State or Sinclair or something like that, but these high school kids or the grade school kids that we do stuff for. They appreciate it just as much as the parents do, and I keep saying that's why we do what we do, and at least that's what I do. That's what I like, because I like broadcasting. I like sitting in the booth. I like sitting there calling a Central State game or a Sinclair game, or we did youth baseball last year, a couple of games down at Howell Field for championship games and stuff like that. And it's not uncommon for us to do something like that. I mean, that's why we've got over 1,140 some broadcasts.
It's insane to think, 5 years, just how much ground you guys have covered with GCSN. And like I mentioned, if people don't know about it, I mean, they're missing out on a lot of good local sports.
We're going to do a Australian rules football game sometime.
I don't know.
And speaking of Aussie football, I know Brian has been working very hard to get something going here in Dayton. And for those that might be interested in it, don't know, but like, hey, I want to try a sport. Brian, tell me about the Dayton Warhawks.
Yeah, you're pretty much looking at it right now, Lee. I hate to say there's not a whole lot to it right now. I've been trying to get it going for the last 7 or so years with I want to say varying degrees of success. Well, I don't know what else to say. But I'm trying to get it going again this year. I'm probably going to have, by the end of the season, it's kind of ending this year for the USA. It's their season's going to properly end in October, middle of October with their national championships in California this year, I believe. So the door's kind of closing for chances to get something going on at a major level this year. So I made the shoot more towards next year. But right now I'm trying to do some Wednesday stuff at a park in Centerville. It's Iron Horse Park on Milshire Drive, I think.
Yeah, that's you have to get to Milshire in Kettering, right? Like it's off Whip, right?
Yes, it's off Whip Road.
Okay.
It's technically Centerville, Washington Township under that park registration, but it's closer to Kettering than anything else.
Let me draw the line of Kettering / Centerville / Washington Township. There's the line.
Squiggly, tiny squiggly line. And
if it's a maroon sign, you're in Kettering. If it's a blue sign, you're in Centerville. If it's a green sign, you're in Washington Township. There you go.
And I've seen one of each of those colors on that sign there.
Yeah. On Ron Road, you see like all three of them in like a block. And just, wow, where are these colors coming from?
Anyway, I'm trying to get some little training, like a little casual kicking the football Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. So if anybody's listening and is athletic enough, probably more so than me, that wants to give a new sport a try, go ahead and give it.
And for those that don't know about Aussie football, what can you compare it to that people are like, oh, I want to play that?
Well, it's pretty hard. It's a very much a unique sport to itself, but it's got elements of soccer, football, rugby, and a little bit of basketball in it too. It's got running, it's got kicking, it's got tackling, and games are very, very high scoring. It's pretty much anything you could ever want in a sport.
I've broadcasted, I was going to say one, but I was like, oh yeah, Brian and I did the 49th Parallel Cup in Dublin a couple years back.
That was about 6 years ago, I want to say. That was quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was. Wow. Where does time fly on that? But pretty much you get a gigantic ball, you have to kick it, and you can tackle, which is underneath the shoulders but above the waist.
I think
right?
it's, by rule, I think it's between the shoulders and the knees.
Okay, so it's a lot more area than I gave, but, that's...
Yeah, when you're running on the field, it's kind of a blur anyway.
No pads, by the way.
Right, no pads. Just the only thing we might have is a mouth guard and maybe one or two other things, but...
pretty much you're unpadded. It's like rugby in that sense.
It is like rugby in that sense. I don't see too many guys wearing the soft helmets, though, in the game, but we don't lead with the head so much, and then the head's not really definitely off limits as far as tackling goes.
You're not leading with your head. You're trying to lead more with your body so you don't, It's a fun sport, people. Give it a chance, and I think you guys will like it, too. Brian actually got me hooked with it with the Cincinnati Dockers, which play at Fairfield, right by the Forest Fair Mall.
Yes, or what remains of the Forest Fair Mall.
The Forest Fair nothing, because nothing's ever going in there.
Well, don't they have I know they have the national tournament in Mason and over in Dublin.
That was quite a few years ago, but
yeah, that was about
Mason and in Dublin.
Yeah, the Mason one was with another station at the time, too. I remember that. I think that's the first time I ever saw an Australian meat pie. It was kind of neat.
Oh, my God, I miss those things.
I need to find a recipe for those. That's not for this podcast, but
we'll tell you. I'll tell you when we stop recording.
But, yeah, I mean, it's happened in Ohio a couple times, the U.S. AFL Nationals. Like I mentioned, it's a great sport, and you can get this sport in the Cinday area. Brian's trying to start up a team in Dayton, Ohio. It's the Warhawks, and the badge is awesome. And yes, it is.
Yep, and it was designed by a guy out of Cincinnati by the name of Tony Neary. Give him a shout-out here. I don't know what company he works for nowadays, but his company at that time designed the logo. He's a really good dude, very talented artist and graphic designer.
What else did he do? That name sounds familiar, and I feel like I know
Tony
something.
Neary. He used to play for Cincinnati for a while. One of my teammates for a while. I don't remember exactly what else he did. Oh, I think he also designed some stuff for the River Monsters, I want to say, back when they were first a team.
Wow, that's cool. It is cool. I like learning about that.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, back to the USAFL thing. Yeah, I'm trying to get something going on in Dayton, and you mentioned a team in Cincinnati. There's also teams in the area. There's one in Columbus, Indianapolis, and for a few years now there's been a team in Cleveland, Louisville. Maybe a little bit further away, you've got the Chicago, Milwaukee, Nashville, Tennessee,
New York, Baltimore, Washington has a
team.
No,
there's teams all over the country.
There's a lot of teams in California too.
Oh yeah, I think California's pretty much. I don't know if they got their own league right now. Hate to say I've been out of the bubble for a while, but it's really, really grown. I think there's one in Tulsa, Oklahoma now, and I think I want to say Des Moines maybe as well.
And there are women's teams too.
Yes,
not every city has a women's team, but women do play as well.
Correct. The only one that's got a women's team regionally to me that I know of is Columbus.
Yep, the Gillaroos.
Correct.
And the men being the Jackaroos.
And one of the ladies that's come down to practice every now and then is from the local area, but trains with the Columbus team.
That's really cool. I like that.
When they played down in Mason, they had what, about 15 or 20 women's teams down there or something?
I don't think it was that many. Maybe 4, maybe 8 or so. But then again, I don't know. Maybe they did expand to Division II by then, but I don't remember. But I think nowadays they've got 2 divisions for women. But if anyone's listening that knows, correct me if I'm wrong.
And I know when it was at Mason, I think there was 5 fields. There was the Cooper's Field, which is
Cooper's Field was the Division I field.
Yep, that's your big matches, and then you had your side matches.
They pretty much had one field for each division. Cooper's Field was Div 1, and also all the grand finals with all but one or two of the grand finals would take place at that field. At that tournament, I was in the lowly Division 4, so we didn't get to play at that lovely field, but unlucky for us. But when I say us, I mean Cincinnati and Louisville.
And if I remember right, the last match that was there, it was a battle of magpies, and I forget who won it, Dallas or New York, but they had to give it up.
It was Dallas, if I remember, and but they had to forfeit the cup because they played an ineligible player. I'm trying to remember the story behind that. I'm trying to remember. I think it was an Australian player. I don't know what his name was, and honestly don't care to. But Dallas, I guess, had listed him as playing in some on the sheets, but they could prove that this guy was in Australia actually playing matches, so they were forced to vacate the title, and that actually forced the USAFL to implement a brand new player and team management system that's online. Players have to actually register with USAFL now before they even play one game, otherwise the games they play won't count.
I see.
They got it for nationals. They have an eligibility rule. I don't know if it's changed in years, but as long as I was playing, you had to play at least 3 games with your team to be eligible to play in nationals. I mean, exemptions are allowed, like if a player joins late or new players are just there's exemptions that are allowed, but
most of the time you can't just add big players well, this is our first game, we're just going to run over everyone type of thing.
Yeah, and then it was in 2000. I mean, that was my first time I ever traveled for nationals in was that L.A. I want to say in Los Angeles, California, but that was when there was just one division. But if I remember, San Diego had a whole bunch of guys from the Australian Navy, or allegedly a lot of players from the Australian Navy that never played a game in the U.S., played for San Diego, and they ran roughshod. Not enough to beat Boston, though, who I think won the championship that year. But
wow,
that was so many years back, I don't remember.
Joined with Brian Reiss, Doug Brown of the Gem City Sports Network, and we're going to wrap up episode 7 very shortly. An hour and 34 minutes pre-editing.
Good gravy.
I like when I have guests. I mean, I don't feel like I'm boring everyone. Just like, this team's playing that team, which I do apologize if you didn't like episode 6. I'm still learning and growing how to do my podcast. I want to make sure that Doug and Brian's mission with GCSN, get the schools that don't get the media coverage the attention. That's what I'm trying to do, except, podcast. So I'm working through, and I'll make it more entertaining in the future, I promise. But when I have guests, I like learning, about sports stories I didn't know about. I like reminiscing. Like we mentioned, 49th Parallel Cup, that brought a nice smile to my face because that was a lot of fun. Brian and I calling United States versus Canada.
4 matches that day. The men's and women's, both reserves and the senior teams.
The Canada Northern Lights, Northern Winds, and the United States Liberty and Revolution, if I remember.
Revolution, I think they've actually got a name for their secondary team. I think it's the Freedom, I want to say.
I think you're right about that.
That sounds right, yeah. I just remember having to go over to the tent and writing all the names down on a piece of paper.
Oh my god!
Brian, read this. This is my writing. You can read this.
Oh my god! I vaguely remember that. Just having to just go to the tent or wherever it was, basically sprinting, hustling, trying to write down all the names.
And we're on audio, and it's just I don't know.
Pretty much getting on the air at the moment. Pretty much once we had finally had the team sheets and stuff, we were pretty much, the game was just about ready to start or whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much, okay, I'm back. Here's the roster.
It was like that a few times.
The last thing they ever do is get a roster at the last second.
Yeah.
And that happens at various levels, like at the lower levels, like high school and such. And I remember doing something like that with the Gem City Slam. That wasn't even a slam. That was I'm talking about the, when I say the slam, that was like a semi-pro basketball thing at Northmont. I remember it was one of the women's matches. It was either the Lady Slam or was it the Brick City whatever Warriors maybe?
Players, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, but one other point being, I was literally filling out the sheet, and I don't even remember if I was on the air or not. I don't think I was on the air, but literally not 1 second after I finished scribbling down the names and numbers for the team, jump ball.
Yeah, they don't look at the time on the clock anyway. Yeah, they just go whenever it's ready. Whenever the teams are ready, they go. And but that's the basketball. But it was good basketball, I thought.
Yeah, that was another one of my fun moments with GCSN as well.
That was one that I never got to. I think I always had hockey or Miami Middletown basketball to do, and I just never got around to broadcasting with you guys. But I remember Gem City Slam quite well. And
David Herzog was the owner.
what's David doing now?
Is he running for office now?
Yeah, I think
So.
Yeah.
I can't remember which city he's running for office for, but if he's listening to the podcast, just send us a line.
Hi, David.
I want to say hi to his wife. She had a stroke a couple of weeks ago, and she's I guess in rehab. But Tiffany, get well. We need you back.
Speedy recovery.
Yeah.
So
I know about recoveries.
if people want to help out GCSN, if they want to broadcast, if they want to help grow the station, if they want, just say, hey, you're doing a great job, keep it up, where do you point them?
Just go to gemcitysports.com. I think we got a contact page there. Just fill out the forms, put out whatever message you want, and we will definitely get them. I think we also got a direct email. I think it's at info@gemcitysports.com. Yeah. And just we'll do a quick bit of a shilling here. We've also got a Patreon account. That's patreon.com/GCSN if you want to support us directly financially, because as we've said this before, it's pretty much a labor of love with this thing. We're not making a whole lot as far as you always see Google ads on our site, but what we're getting from that, it fluctuates depending on how good of a game we're doing and how popular it is, and it's not always enough to pay the I will admit that the bills are kind of small, relatively small, but it would be nice to be able to make enough to cover all that stuff. So again, that's patreon.com/GCSN. We'll try to get some rewards up there once we get some regular patrons on that site, but there you go.
What if fans want to follow you?
Personally. They want to follow me personally. I'm on Facebook. It's I think facebook.com/BReisse, and I think it's also on Twitter at BReisse. That's BREISSIE. And I'm pretty much back. I'm fairly active mostly active on Facebook. That's more of a personal thing, but Twitter at BReisse. And Doug?
Facebook. You can catch me on Facebook and Twitter. That's about it. On Twitter, I'm Bro0204. And Facebook, I think it's just, I don't even know, to be honest with you.
Look for Doug Brown in the Sinclair hat.
You can't miss it.
You can't miss what I always thought was two macaroni shells just lined up weird, like a broken CD. I think it was like the first year I was helping out GCSN. It's like, oh, that's supposed to be an S. Don't I feel smart? It's not a broken CD or broken macaroni. It's a letter.
Yeah.
If Sinclair's colors were red and yellow, then it might be a bit of macaroni or cheese. But
I don't even know where I came up with macaroni. I think it was just I saw it as a
well,
kid.
you said it was two broken C's, if you will.
I mean, elbow. I don't know. I mean, I don't think people care.
That bombshell.
Okay. What was that, Doug?
One thing I want to say, to you guys right now, I appreciate all that you guys have done for the, for the station and for the website and so forth. But there's other people that have really helped us out, like Jim DeBelt. Mm-hmm. He's got the top two. He's got the top two downloads. The DeBelt report, the all area team from last year, 342 downloads.
That's insane.
And he's also helping out this season, right?
Yeah, we're going to have the preseason top 50 from Tippecanoe High School on November the 19th. And we're also going to have probably the all-area team afterwards, sometime in February or March. And then also the underclassmen all-star games. They are usually from Urbana, but I think this year he's got a new venue lined up, and I'm not sure where at. But college coaches come from all over, and some of them win their games, and like Cincinnati State stuff and they come up and say, "Hey, we thank you for doing those games," because one of the things that we do, when we put them online or when we put them on demand and stuff like that, those kids, and I keep telling the kids back from Central State or that from Central State, hey, you can listen to the game after when you're on the bus heading home, and a lot of kids do that, and so you got three things: third, fourth, and fifth in line for demolition. The three demo talk, demolition event, and then an interview with Kaylee Judd. You're like 3, 4, and 5 in the top ones there, Lee.
I think Keela was Demons, if I remember right, because that was with Jeffrey helping me out on
I think
that.
That sounds about right.
I remember the debut of that, and that was really cool for me, because, here's the franchise, it's hockey, and I'm debuting it, here you go. Although I realized that the sound I wanted to pick up didn't quite do so well, so I had to bulk it up at Audacity. I was like, ugh. But yeah, it's really cool to be part of it. And folks, I hope you give Brian and Doug and the Gem City Sports Network a chance, because they do deserve it with the love they put into Cincinnati Dayton sports. And I think that will close out episode 7 quite nicely, gentlemen. It's been wonderful, and this episode is just as long as Mark Schlemmer's first episode. And speaking of the Schlem, he'll be back next week for episode 8, The Return of the Schlem, which might or might not be the name of the episode. I haven't decided. Actually, I haven't told you guys what the episode name I picked out for this, and you guys can tell me if you like it or not, and I can change it. A Priceless Gem.
I can go with that.
Gem?
Okay.
Gem City? Yeah.
Yeah, we go with that.
Okay, that works.
Definitely do worse than that.
And fans, I haven't picked a bad name out yet, luckily. I don't know. Maybe I have. No one's told me yet.
It does work. I'm not on it right now.
Episode 9. I don't know what I'm doing in my podcast anymore. Help.
Yeah, just follow us this weekend. Just give us a shot this weekend. You got soccer coming up. You got college football. It's going to be a good weekend.
It's going to be good.
Say what the broadcast times and links are, gentlemen.
Okay, for mine, it's going to be, again, Soccer Saturday. It's going to be at radio5.gemcitysports.com, I believe. Kickoff is going to be at 5. Again, that's going to be boys soccer action featuring the Chaminade Julienne Eagles hosting the Bellbrook Golden Eagles. So
you got Eagles galore. That's a lot of fun. Eaton and Bellbrook games were a lot of fun because they're the same colors. And although Bellbrook's Golden and Eaton's fighting, but it used to be Eaton and Bellbrook were Golden Eagles. That doesn't matter. Who cares about that? Doug, where can I listen to Central State football?
Coming up Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, it'll be Central State taking on Elizabeth City State out of North Carolina. The Vikings will come up and make a 9-hour trip or something like that. It'll be on radio1.gemcitysports.com beginning at 12:30. We have the pregame show, and we'll have interviews with the head coach, Cedric Pearl, and going to have a color commentator for the first time, and that's going to be Kevin O'Boyle.
Good guy, Kevin.
Huh?
been a while since I've seen Kevin. He's that's a good score.
Kevin's a good guy. He works with me a couple games for the Dragons. He's the stringer/official scorer.
Yeah, he's going to join me, and we got a new toy this year, and we're going to try it out, and that's going to be a wireless mic. Then he's going to go down and interview Coach Pearl at halftime. And also, one thing we do here at the Gem City Sports Network, if we do a high school game or a college game or something like that, football, we do the bands. We play the bands. We don't go to a studio show. We aren't like ESPN or Fox Sports or anything like that. We do the bands because they're part of the game too. And you can hear the cheerleaders in the background. We do that. And also coming up next week on the 9th, we got Halftime USA from Wayne High School. It's the 50th anniversary for Halftime USA, and last year we had 176 downloads.
That's very impressive. And the mighty Marching Marauders, there's something to hear. I mean, you should go and see them in person, but if you can't, there's something to hear, and Doug and Kevin will do the game right for you Saturday, and Brian's got soccer for you coming up. GemCitySports.com. And that wraps up episode 7. Gentlemen, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You can like the new podcast page, The Gem on the Queen's Crown on Facebook. Give me a big old thumbs up. That's not a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up and like the page. I know you did. And I think Doug did too.
I did.
Okay. Thumbs up the page, and that's where I'll go and talk about episode ideas. I'll probably do a lot more fan interaction. I need to get back to that. I haven't done that really since episode 2. And that was a lot of fun with like 20-some Facebook posts. That was a lot of fun to do. Fan interaction, episode ideas, comments, go like the page. Again, it's the Gem on the Queen's Crown. You can't miss the 5-minute logo I did on GIMP, the free Photoshop editor. So go ahead and like it. You can follow me on Twitter, the Lee W. Mowen. That's where I never shut up about my podcast anymore and the games I do. And Facebook, the Lee W. Mowen. Well, actually, yeah, that works. It's a page. TheLeeWMowen.com. Also listen to the podcast, not only on GemCitySports.com, but on TuneIn, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. For Brian and Doug, this is Lee W. Mowen signing off. Episode number 7, now in the books.